The first step to installing the Dakota digital gauges is to remove this bezel. And on the 64 to 66 trucks, you will need to remove your buttons right here. Go ahead and get all of those off and then unscrew the bezel and then take the whole thing out. I've tried to remove this bezel with all these still in there. Everything gets in the way. Your ignition and your lighting on the back side is so big it's hard to slide everything out. So I want to remove all these, but I planned on removing them anyway because I want to powder coat this bezel to match the rest of the stuff on my dash. I'm going to powder coat it black. We're going to go ahead and start removing these, and you'll notice as you remove these, some of them are in there different ways. This one screws on. This one has a flathead screwdriver that you turn and it pops off. This is actually the one that I put in there that I got from Amazon. So that one just bolts in with this little washer and nut right here. The ignition, this one turns on the front, and this is just a cigarette lighter that is just sitting in there. So I'll go ahead and do that one first. One down. That was easy. All right, so we're going to twist this off like that. Go ahead and throw that in the floor so we lose it. And under here, you'll see that there's two little grooves in here. And what we'll want to do is, I usually take a pair of scissors or a pair of pliers or something that's small enough to get down in those grooves, and then I will turn it like that. You can see how it turned the whole knob. But any kind of tool, needle nose pliers works good. You can put it in there and just break it loose, and then you're just gonna spin it with your hand, and this should just fall out from the back side. Make sure whenever you're doing this, unhook your battery. I usually unhook my battery for any kind of install I'm doing if I think there's any kind of electric, but sometimes there can be connections on the back side of the lighting or especially the ignition that could hit ground and blow a fuse, and we don't want that to happen. Let's go ahead, just make sure, set all the parts aside. I like to sit them kind of in a pile with each other, so I know what went with what, because once you get all these apart, some things look like they go with some things and some not. There we go. That one just unscrewed with the little flathead right there. And then this one was the windshield wiper. There we go. To the ignition just fits in on the top. Alright, so that's actually probably the easiest I've ever got those buttons out. I think because some of them were just in there hand tight. A lot of these that I've tried to remove have been in there for 60 years. So thankfully this one was good. Let's pull out these gauges now. There we go. So these were a lot easier than factory gauges. So these mount in the same way as the Dakota Digital. They just screw in, and then there's a connector right here that goes to the back side. I like that they put enough wire here to actually set the gauges down on the ground while you wire everything up. That's thinking it out. I don't know what brand. Oh, wow, look at this. This is crazy. Check this out right here. This is the OG Dakota Digital gauges. It has all the different things: water, oil, fuel, reset, trip, brake, all the different things for your headlights and all that right here. So this is going to actually help me out a lot when I install the new Dakota Digital gauges, because I'm going to label all these wires that are coming out of this box. That way it saves me some time and I can figure it out. All right, we got the old dash cluster out. I still have the gauges hooked up right here, but whenever I unplugged everything, I noticed these are Dakota Digital Series 2. So this thing had Dakota Digital in it. They're just their old school style, but it's pretty cool. This is kind of their OG box where everything plugged into, and that's what really sets Dakota Digital apart, is you just plug all your wires into where they go, and that runs everything for you. There's not a lot of wiring. I love just sticking the wire in there and clamping it down. Since some of this is already marked, I need to tape and mark that, and I'm going to try to clean up all the wires behind here because I have a cool bracket from AZ Pro Performance that mounts to Dakota Digital, the computer, and the Holley BIM. I'll run through everything that I have, but I just need to get as many wires as I can ripped out, cleaned up, get the dust off of it, and begin to mount all the new stuff. I might wire loom with some of that braided loom, the old stuff that's cracking away, and just make it look really nice behind the steering wheel. Whatever areas of the truck that I touch, I want to leave it looking better than it was. I don't want to just slap the new stuff and leave it on there, but I want to clean it up, organize the wires. That way when I'm done with this truck, I know, hey, if you look under the dash, the wires look good, everything is wired up correctly. And yeah, it just takes some time. Wiring is one of those things you got to be in the mood for. And if you're not in the mood for it, then you're probably going to rush it. I like to wire whenever I just want to zone out and take my mind off all the other stuff going on and just focus in on wiring and kind of escape for a second. I've wrapped that one. This one says temp, so this one went to the temperature. We don't need that anymore. The Holley section is gonna let us know that. So this is temp and tack, and both of those aren't used anymore. So yay, there we go. Just a little flat head. And see, this was just laying in there. That's what I'm trying to get away from. That's why I love the little bracket from AZ Pro Performance, is it mounts everything in there tight where it's not flopping around. I like to really lock in everything. Right. Dakota Digital Series 2. Nice. Here's where I want to get detailed. There's a lot of wires that are kind of spliced in, and then lights happening here, lights everywhere. I don't need any of those lights back here. I just need to cut this loom, and I'm going to trace the wires all the way back as far as I feel like tracing them back, maybe to that plug right there. And as I'm doing this, I'm learning. I know that that pink wire is the 12 volt. The 12 volt is running to all the lights. You can see all the lights, and then it has a different wire running to it. I want to combine as many wires as I can into one loom. Like you see how all of them are combined right here. A lot of you may be looking at this and be like, man, just replace it all with a American Auto wire. And I do love American Auto wire. It's awesome, but I really don't want to rewire this whole truck. Every single thing on this truck works right now. Like the headlights and turn signals and all that stuff. I don't think you need to rewire. I mean, the wires look good. You know, you don't have to set and rewire it just to rewire it. So I'm even going to leave the factory fuses. This may save a ton of time right here. I unclipped them, so I'm just going to undo this whole wiring harness, unpin all the lights, and just be left with the fuel, all the ones that I need for the gauges. This worked out perfect. I can reloom all these and just be left with what I want. Get rid of some of these wire connectors and get a better connection on there, because I don't need the wires to be as long. perfect. I'm pumped. This is going to help out a lot. All right, it's pretty clean in here, but the cord loom is still dirty as heck. So I was going to take some engine degreaser or something like that, but I decided I'm going to try some of these Sweet Patina TKO wipes. They're hand wipes, but they clean your tools, clean your hands, clean everything. They're multi-purpose, so let's pull some of those out and maybe it'll scrub that stuff off of there. I was going to use some degreaser or something like that, but I was thinking, hey, I've still got those. And I wonder if they'll clean this up nice. Check that out. So all these wires were brown like this. I used those TKO wipes, just wrapped it around there, scrubbed it. It's like brand new. What? Leave the thing. I didn't even think it was going to work that good. That's awesome, because all these wires are always trash. I'm going to try to do this whole section with just one wipe. Check that out. Sweet Patina TKO wipes cleaned up all those wires. They look great. That was the main thing I was worried about. Now when I put that bracket and everything in here, it's going to look awesome. All right, I'm going to go ahead and tear this harness down. Just going to cut it with the razor blade and just be really easy with it so I don't cut into any of the wires. We're mainly taking this all apart to get rid of these lights and to just get it down to the stuff we labeled that plugs in to the Dakota digital gauges, because that's going to be the stuff that we actually use. From the factory, it needs all these lights because that's what lights the dash. Now the Dakota digital will have the backlight. It will have all the lights for the gauges. It's all LED, so we don't have to worry about any of that. You can leave all this stuff in there if you're just trying to get your gauges hooked up. You don't care about how it looks, you just want it functional, then go right ahead. I like to have a balance of both. I want it to look good. That way I have peace of mind of, if it looks good, it looks like it was done right. And I want it to look like it was done right, because it can work and look like it wasn't done right. And I've seen a lot of stuff that works but doesn't look good. Most of this we do not need. All these lights, probably every single one of these pink wires, the 12 volt besides one. That's what this mess is right here. This pink wire runs into all these other wires. I don't know if it's like that from the factory. Kind of appears that way. There's a junction right here, but we don't need all that. So I'm going to cut this right at the very end. Go ahead and make these into two. All we're going to do is follow this to the actual clip, and we're going to depin that right there. And usually you can look and see, these look like they depin by pushing in, like kind of pushing in on them. Let me see if this, yep. So this one depinned. When it's stuck in there, this kind of hits the flange, so you just press it like this and pull it, and it pulls out. So we're going to depin all of the lights. One thing I did want to say, if you're doing factory and you didn't have Dakota Digital already in there, I lucked out because I know all the wires were already, assuming they're correct, were already labeled. So what I want to do is, if you're watching this and you have these connectors. I'll go through them one time so you can depin yours down to what you need. The right one is blue. That's the right turn signal. The fuel is this color, the brown. It's not orange. They spliced into it. It's brown. And you should see a brown wire going down your door seal there. So brown fuel, blue right, and light blue left. Then on the other one, you'll need your dim, which is gray, your 12 volt, that's pink, and your high, which is green. So that'll give you your bright lights, your dim lights, your 12 volt, and then your blinkers and your fuel gauge here. Besides that, the Holley BIM should give us everything else besides the speedo. If that's not correct, I'll correct myself later on. It's been a minute since I've done this. This is the first time that I've actually done this because I've always pulled out factory ones and had to figure all this stuff out. So this would have been really helpful if I'd have known this. Now it's time to install the box. And what I like to do is always buy the AZ Pro Performance control box mounting bracket. And this is going to mount to that area where I cleaned up. It's going to mount to the side, and then to right here. It's going to come with the bolts that you need and everything. So we're going to install that bracket first, and then we're going to come in and install this. That way we can plug in all the wires everywhere that they need to go. Then we will come in and install the BIM. That goes right here. Connect that into the box, and then plug the Holley Sniper into the input right here. Then we can start to run the speedo cables and all the other cables that we need. It comes with a lot of different attachments and everything, so I'll go through those when we get there. This is the Dakota Digital RTX. It looks like the factory style gauges, and that's why I like it. Is all this looks like the factory style, the RPMs, the fuel, all that, but you can change it to a bunch of different colors. There's a digital readout screen right here. I like to choose where the needles are orange and the backdrop is kind of an off-white, so it gives it that retro style look. But I'll go through all the different colors and everything whenever I get it installed. Might look cool with a little green backdrop for lucky. After we install the gauges, this is the fuse block that I was talking about. I'm going to run a ignition wire from ignition to this little piece right here, and then all my remote wires, my trigger wires, will go into here with the fuse. So I've got all the things, my system going to the amp, the air ride, the sniper, all those need a keyed ignition, so I can run into those separately. Doesn't require a lot, so it shouldn't override the system. It'll be fine. And this little piece right here wasn't very expensive. It comes with some of these little stickers that you can put on the cover, you know, to put horn or GPS or whatever you're doing. I don't see any that say air ride or anything like that, but they do offer some black ones too. I'll probably just leave them blank. We'll see. Maybe I can print some off and cut them out on my computer to be what they actually are. That'd be pretty cool. Shout out to my buddies at Switch Suspensions for finding me a good deal on the Dakota Digital gauges. Also AZ Pro Performance. I ordered this bracket, and I've ordered that a couple times from them. They do great work. So thank you guys. Let's go ahead and get this bracket installed in. All right, here we go. Slide these in there. And then the brake one goes in the side. I found a nice ground that I can use for that bolt hole. There we go. That's installed in there tight. I made a ground right there where this bolt goes on right there. and I'm going to cut that down to length, whatever I need. Now it's time to bolt in the actual brain box, and all you do to do that is use these supplied clips, clip those into place, and then screw them in with the screws. This is going to go right side up where you can read it, because we've got some connectors that need to connect in here, and we want to have plenty of room. It's easier to plug in wires down at the bottom than it is here at the top. There we go, and that is why I like this little bracket. It holds everything in there really nicely. This is in there snug, it's out of the way, it bolts in without moving that around. I can plug in these wires right here and then run those across the top for those, and then run in to the bottom there, run in the ground, which the ground is right here, so that's going to work out really nice. Plug in the ground. I'm going to plug both of these in and just route the wires. Main thing is finding out where they go. 12 volt constant is going to go down bottom. We've got the high, and you can see I'm kind of routing them along the factory, because I'm probably going to like zip tie them right there or just make them look nice. The high will be like that right there. That will look good. I'm going to go ahead and cut these, and I'm going to leave the stickers on the other end so I don't forget what color goes to what. But now I've got this video as a reference, so haha. Alright, what is the gray? The gray is dim, and that's going to be the one that's not going to reach. So I'm going to have to extend that one. Alright, take those off there. So here's the harness that I made here, just cleaned it up. I like this braided harness, it's not the plastic stuff, and I just have the wires kind of sticking out here, and full length I can cut this, but this will give me a nice little template. I like when the wires, they just split out of it like this into the harness, so it's just kind of the wire sticking out, and use one piece. But I'm going to mock that up, cut it, and if everything lines up, I'll go ahead and start screwing in the connections that I have one at a time. Nice, nice. It's looking real nice in there, real nice. I've got everything hooked up in the truck that I can, and now I've unpackaged everything that comes with the Dakota digital gauges, and this is what it comes with. You're going to get a little switch here, and you can mount this anywhere you want, and this will allow you to go through the options on the screen without using your phone. You can also use Bluetooth through their app. Comes with this oil pressure sensor. This will go into your small block or whatever that you're using, and it's going to come with different adapters, so it's very universal. But you just plug that in and then run these to the gauges. It comes with your speedometer. You just plug that in the same way you're going to click it in, and it runs to your gauges. And it also has a coolant temperature sensor. It also comes with this buzzer, so you can set warnings on your gauges, and if it surpasses any of those warnings, it'll buzz at you for low fuel or low oil pressure or temperature. You can set all those to warn you with the connector there. Like I mentioned, the adapters. So it comes with all this stuff. Very thankful for that. Usually with kits, you would have to purchase all these separate, and that's one of the things with Dakota Digital that makes it worth it. You're not just getting the gauges and the kind of master unit, you're getting all the different things that help you have everything hooked up so you don't have to be buying all these additional things. The only thing additional that you'll need is the Holley BIM if you're running the Holley Sniper or anything like that. I did find out, and I'll share this a little bit later when I get it, the Holley for the Sniper 2, Holley made something specific for the Sniper 2 because the Sniper 2 has a round connector that has to connect into a small adapter, and you plug that in, then it goes to Dakota Digital. New Holley adapter will be here Monday. Got a couple days left, so I'll go ahead and get everything else ready for when that arrives. We can throw these gauges in there and test them out. I'm gonna go ahead and mount my button. So this allows you to cycle through all the different options on the Dakota Digital without connecting to the app. So if you have some presets on your gauges, you can click through these and change your display with a push of a button. Sometimes I'll set the tach or speedometer, or if you want your digital readouts for your coolant temperature or miles per hour or whatever you want, you can have different settings and then easily cycle through these going down the road or anytime you need to change them up. Usually I'll mount this like right under the dash, and it looks pretty good right there, but I want to actually mount it above this kick panel facing down like this. That way I can just reach my hand right here and just cycle through them real quick, but you can't see the button. All right, now the switch input is right there. Right there. Can't even really see it from the front, but you can click that button easily. It's out of the way of everything else. Perfect. One thing I've never hooked up is this little buzzer. I'm not sure why, I just thought it wasn't needed, but on this truck I'm trying to hook up every single thing that I can, the turn signals, the dimmer, all the things, and then this is part of it. So this is the buzzer, and this is going to alert you. You can set your gauges to have temperature alerts, or if you left your blinker on, or any kind of thing when you're low of gas, this will make a sound and buzz you, and it's just like a nice little warning. Just mounted the buzzer right there. Just kind of push that wire up in there for now. The buzzer clicks in the back of the actual gauges, so once I get it clicked in, I'll get under here and I'll organize those wires really good. But that is the button and that is the buzzer. Those are in there. So yep, that's the last thing that I have right here is a 12-volt constant, and I'll show you guys one more time all the wiring that's in there. I'm pretty happy with how everything turned out, cleaning up the old wires. I basically just have 2 looms that connect all the wires that were in the dash, and then the new wires that are running to the new oil pressure and speedometer. Those are the new wires that I've plugged in down here, and then the ground, the ignition, and I need a 12-volt constant right here. Once I get that 12-volt constant, then we'll be cooking. Alright, I wanted to show you what I'm about to do here. This is the factory fuse block with the old glass kind of fuses, and this works fine. This one's actually in really good condition. All the wiring on the truck looks really good. It's cleaned up nice. I've got the Sniper system right here. This is all the Sniper. I love this system that it has going on. If you didn't see it, it is this nice little bar that has everything where it goes and plugs in, and the lights turn on to make sure everything's working properly. I love that. Before the Sniper systems, you just had to splice everything in, but this is really nice. And yes, it's upside down. That's how I had to mount them, the way the wires ran. It just made running the wires a lot easier. But back to this factory fuse panel. Now on Francis, you might have seen that I used a American Auto Wire system, and it works awesome. but I don't want to rewire this whole truck. All the lights on the whole truck works. The headlights, turn signals, all the wiring is in really good condition too. So what I want to do is just make an additional kind of fuse block for the new stuff that I have. Let this run all the headlights and all the things that it's meant to run, and have something additional to run some of the powered items, some of the remote keyed ignition items that I have. And I've got right now, the Sniper needs a keyed ignition, the Airlift 3P needs a keyed ignition, the sound system needs a keyed ignition, and this Dakota Digital is going to need ignition, and the Vintage Air. So that is a lot of keyed ignitions. And usually what you do, if you've never done this, these right here say ignition, ignition, ignition. So usually what you would do is, let me find one. Usually you would use one of these connectors into that ignition right there, and that works just fine. You'll run a fuse on that, and that works perfectly fine. But if you have multiple things that you're trying to hook up, like I do, all the different things. So here's the solution that I found, is like 16 bucks on Amazon. You run a keyed ignition to this point right here, and you can run all your different remote wires here. So what this will do is you'll have everything plugged in. When you turn the key, then it will be sent power. This isn't going to be your 12 volt for your items. This is just going to be a keyed ignition that's going to send a signal when the key is turned. Same way as a amp has a remote wire. That's not the big thick 12 volt wire that's going to run the amp. It is just a trigger wire to let you know that the key is turned. So I'll have the Airlift 3P, the amp, the Sniper, the Vintage Air, and the Dakota Digital gauges in here with a fuse in each one. And whenever that fuse is blown, then a light will pop up right here and show you when one is blown. So I'm using this in addition to the factory fuse block to just be able to plug this in. I don't have to rewire my whole truck to have some modern style fuses. All right, I messed around with wires for about 2 hours. Just a lot of looming and taping and reorganizing, and just a long time of just fiddling with stuff. So I'm going to show you the finished product. I don't think you'll get any value from watching me cut and change wires and all that, but I will walk through the final setup right here. So you can see, got the Dakota Digital, that's the main box, the Holley BIM, and the AZ Pro Performance bracket. That bracket just makes it so much easier. This is where I took the factory wires and I depinned it. And then from the depin, it basically split into two. The things that went down to the bottom, which was just really the ignition wire was the main thing, and the fuel input, and then the other ones went up top. So I split those, which cleaned it up nice, made it look good. All the transmission wire and the oil pressure I ran across this down here, and then used the excess. I just wrapped it up, and I used some of that Velcro that sticks to itself just to go around and to keep it organized there, and then ran it straight through the firewall. There's a grommet down there. This may be helpful, so I'm going to run through the wires that I used on this setup. I've got the fuel, the pressure, which is your oil pressure, your speed input. I don't need the temp right here because that is ran through the Sniper 2. I've got the keyed ignition, the 12 volt constant, and a ground, and the ground is right here on this nut. You can run a ground right there. We've got the BIM that runs over to that. We've got the switch input, that's the little clicker switch that I just showed you, and the right blinker, left blinker, high beam, and dim. So that's pretty much it. There's a lot of other things that you could hook up depending on your truck. I am going to look into having a cruise. So that basically goes to your tach. So I'm going to look more into that. I would love to have under the dash like a cruise button that I could click. I talked to a couple people from C10 Club and they're like, yeah, man, it's super easy to do. That'd be awesome to just be able to cruise in this, set a cruise, and just let go of it. As I mentioned before, I'm waiting till Monday, just a couple days, to get the input for the BIM. The Sniper 2 system requires a transition that goes from the little round input to change it over to a 6-pin. So it's just a little thing about this big, but of course you need an adapter. As soon as I get that, I can run the plug from the adapter up into this. I can plug it in from behind the gauges, but I'm going to go ahead and connect the gauges to the dash bezel and then screw the dash bezel in here and look at it. Let's go ahead and put the gauges on the bezel and check this thing out. For the dash, it gives us some of these felt pads and then some screws to screw it in from the back side. Whenever you're doing the felt, don't put it down so far that when you screw in the gauges themselves, it pushes out the felt on the bottom. Go further up away from the center. I'm just gonna tighten one side at a time, kind of work them into place. Get them all lined up first. Check and make sure your gaps up here. Nice. That is a nice tight fit in there. These look killer. Whew, I'm pumped. Now I bought some really nice screws that'll go in there that are black, and we're gonna go ahead and screw her in. The 2 cords that I have sticking out is the one for the buzzer and the display cable. Those are the 2 that are gonna plug in the back. I'm gonna plug those in there and push them in there, and then once it's in, I'll come on the back side and I'll organize these 2 wires. You want to kind of leave these 2 a little bit loose in there, that way if you have to pull the gauges out. Very happy with how this turned out. It looks great. About to turn it on, check it out. The black hardware looks great. Boom. All right, I can see myself in the thing. What's up? I think all that's left is to turn this key and hope for the best. All right, they work in the and I can already tell that alert thing is very annoying. So I'm going to unplug that until I get these gauges set. So maybe that is a good thing to know, is, hey, before you hook in the buzzer, go ahead and program everything. So this is a wrap on the Dakota digital gauges. I got the Holley BIM, the adapter for the Sniper 2 in. I plugged that in and plugged up, worked great. I hooked up the speedometer sensor to the transmission. It came with the screw in with the plug-in bracket, ran that back there with the wire. very straightforward. Here's what the Sniper 2 connection looks like. So if you have the Sniper 2, this is the adapter that you need. I'll link it in the description, but it's just that little bracket right there. Your Sniper 2 plugs into that, and then this wire goes to the Holley BIM, and that plugs into your Dakota. The Sniper 2 doesn't have the old school connector. It has this round connector, and that's why you need the adapter. You can kind of daisy chain these together. You can run it into this, and then this is an out. You can run to another Holley system or another Holley BIM or whatever it is. So it's a nice little adapter to have in case I were to add extra stuff later on. Here's what the gauges look like when they're not on. I put new buttons on everything, so that really helped clean it up. Usually I like the chrome bezel, but man, this satin black powder coat is just money. Looks really good with the vintage air connector. I got the billet ashtray handle from LMC, and Tennessee powder coated that. And I actually just painted this with some of that satin black paint, and it looks really good. Very happy with how all the interior looks. There's the kick panel speakers. They look great. They don't take up hardly any space at all. Really coming together. But let's check out these gauges. I'm going to show you what they look like first, and then I will go into the app and do some of the app stuff. So here's kind of how they look. Of course, I've went in and changed these colors and everything to a red, kind of a Christmas feel a little bit. You've got your red needles with the green numbers. You can change these right here to whatever you want. The water temperature, the fuel, the oil pressure, whatever you want right there. You can have it where they're all set, a quarter time, anything that you want. And you've just got your standard kind of speedometer there as well. And this is pretty much exactly how your factory cluster would look. It's got a nice RPM, the odometer, speedometer, temperature, battery, oil, fuel, and it's really nice. But let's go ahead and go into setup mode, and I'll go into the app and show you how to do that. So to go to setup mode, you hold down the 1, and remember I put the button right here. You just hold down that button and then turn the key over, and it puts you in setup mode. So I'm going to do that right now. Hold the button down, turn the key over, and you see it says setup right there. So we're in setup mode. You can use the little click button right here to actually go through all the setup mode. You don't have to have the app on your phone if you don't have a phone. But if you have one, you can go to the Dakota Digital app, and it will say available devices. You can click the available device, and it will connect you here. On the app, you'll see setup, real-time gauges, diagnostics, information, demo mode, and disconnect. So if you click setup, you can go to Bluetooth, lighting, display, readings, all that. So let's just kind of go through the lighting. They have lots of different themes. You can click theme, and I'm gonna show you, and then I'll tell you what they are. This is white hot. So white hot is really my favorite one, I think, to use. It's just white numbers and a red needle. You've got ice white that kind of gives you blue over on the settings. Incandescent. So incandescent kind of gives you that off-white look, kind of the older look. Yellow flare. Mint green. Emerald. Wild aqua. Ice and fire. steel blue, vivid orchid, wild rose, and fire and ice, which is a really cool one too. You can set your day and night colors. And I'm going to actually go back and I'm going to put it to white hot. I really like that one. I'm going to leave it white hot for now. I think it's easier to read. You can go to intensity, so you can set the intensity of your gauges depending on how bright you want it. If you don't want it shining super bright when you're driving at night, you don't have to. You can set that. And you can also go into customize. This is a really cool function right here. So you can choose any of these colors and it will change to that color. So I'm going to flip through, like you can change. I'm just flipping through the different colors and you'll see all the different kind of lights changing as I change the colors. And there are thousands of combinations, so you can get as wild as you want. Have rainbow theme, but you can check that out. Tons of different settings, which is cool. You can go to display, and display will give you a bunch of warning pop-ups, and you can choose. You'll see right here it has 1, 2, 3, 4. You can choose what's in each one of those boxes. So oil pressure, speedometer, whatever you want, you can choose into there. You can go to readings and set up your tach, your voltage, your water, your oil setup. You can choose all that kind of stuff. Whenever the buzzer, you can choose when the buzzer comes on. It will warn you whenever the oil pressure's low or the temperature's too high. You can set that up. The fuel has a setup. You choose your fuel. The fuel setup, you can choose the type of sender, and it has a ton of different senders, so you can choose whatever you want to make sure you have your fuel level right. You can also manually adjust the fuel, so if you put in what gallon tank you have, where it manually adjusts it. Where it's low, you put in how many gallons, you start it, you fill up your tank, and it will learn kind of your fuel levels and then set your fuel gauge like that. Pretty cool setting. On the app, it also has real-time gauges, so you can actually look at your gauges on your app. That's a pretty cool setting just to be able to see everything. It's reading basically Bluetooth on your app so you can check things out. I like to use the real time. If I'm messing with the engine outside, I can look at all my gauges from my phone while working in the engine bay without seeing the gauges from the front. It's a really cool option for you when you're working on your truck. That's pretty much it, guys. The Dakota digital gauges are at the top of the totem pole when it comes to gauges. They're easy to set up. They look great. The RTX version really looks like the classic gauges, but then gives you all the digital stuff that you need. The options are pretty much endless for hooking anything and everything up to this. It also has a lot of custom options. So if you have things that you can connect into it, into the custom slot on the brain box, it can read some information. But thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate it. I love these gauges. If you have any questions, post them in the comments. And thanks for checking out the build. It's coming to a close. I'm in the new shop right now. It was very cold outside today, so I just moved this one in here. I'm doing the secondary battery right now. And I took a break to finish up this Dakota Digital Gauges video, and I hope to have it out in a couple days now that I've recorded the final kind of look and the options. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'd appreciate the support. You can click the title to this video, and it has a list of all the different things that I talked about, the BIM, the Dakota Digital, all the things that you'll need to get these gauges installed. So check out the other videos. If you're new to the channel, I do step-by-step do-it-yourself videos for LS swaps, vintage air, but I really focus on air ride suspension. I've got 4 complete builds on YouTube right now that you can go and see from start to finish. You can actually see some of the photos. I've got these 4 photos that I have on the wall, complete builds on YouTube, and check them out. But hope you guys have a great new year. Appreciate you watching the video, and see you next time. Peace.